Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So, this rains retreat is going to be the rains retreat of the Dhammachakka Sutta. So the next 10 weeks, still in the 2 weeks off, I'm going to say something. At least the Dhammachakka Sutta will be a launch point anyway, a starting point. What happens after that we'll see. And it's going to be follow the usual format of the Dhamma talk we give. It's unsystematic, kind of rambling, moves around, but hopefully there is a focus. It certainly is a starting point. And as some of you may know, there's so much been said over the years about the first teaching of the Buddha, and there's so much to discuss. That we'll see what happens. We'll start out with that anyway. I think most of you know already, but some of you may not. The Dhammachakka is translated as the setting in motion the will of Dhamma. So it's the first teaching the Buddha gave after he became enlightened. So as you know, in Buddhist history, the Buddha became enlightened on the full moon of May. He sat around, blissed out for a few weeks, and then 2 months later he gave his first teaching in Sarnath. Walked around, gave his first teaching, and he remembered the 5 ascetics that he practiced with, and he went back and gave the teaching to them. So that is the full moon in July. And then the other main day of Buddhism is next year, the full moon in February or March, where the 1,250 arahants spontaneously came together, and then he laid down the teaching of the Vinaya, teaching of the for the monks. Yeah, so those are the 3 holy days of the Buddhist calendar. And the funny is, the first 2 matches up with the first. With the most important days of the Buddhist teaching is his enlightenment, and then the first teaching. But the third cardinal sutta, which is the fire sermons, do not line up. The fire sermon is just sometimes after, during the rains retreat, where 1,000 of the fire ascetics became enlightened after that. But the first teaching of the Buddha is the beginning of the rains retreat. As you might know, that happened a couple of weeks ago. And until then, there was no Buddhism, because until then there were no enlightened beings other than the Buddha. So he could have been a Pacceka Buddha, a Buddha who became enlightened, but without teaching. And as you remember, the Buddha didn't start out to start a religion. That wasn't his aim. He didn't want to start a movement. He wasn't didn't have any kind of social aim that way, actually. The Buddha started in finding a search beyond OA, sickness and death. He wanted to find a place that is stable. He wanted a place that beyond suffering. So he went in a search, because he had a good life. He was a prince of a small kingdom, but still a prince. He's got 3 palaces, life of luxury. But yet for him that wasn't enough. He came on a search to look for something beyond this world of change, beyond this world of OA, sickness and death. And when he became enlightened, he started teaching. It still wasn't his intention to start a movement or religion. Out of compassion, he just shared what he taught, shared what he realized on that fateful full moon in May. So, like I said, the Dhammachakka is one of those famous, well-known teaching of the Buddhist world. You've only heard many, many versions of it. It's great. We don't chant a sole introduction, but the introduction says, this is the first teaching of the Tathagata on attaining to the unexcelled, perfect enlightenment. Here's the perfect turning of the incomparable wheel of truth, inestimable, wherever it is expounded in the world. Disclose here the 2 extremes and the middle way, with the 4 noble truths and the purified knowledge and vision pointed out by the Lord Dhamma. Let us chant together the sutta proclaiming the supreme, independent enlightenment that is widely renowned as the turning of the wheel of the Dhamma. And like I said, it had, the Dhammachakka Sutta has great ramification for all human beings, because until then, we didn't know whether the truth that the Buddha realized could be something that could be communicated to another person. And as you know, the first time he gave this teaching, 5 people, only Kondanya. Kondanya became a stream enter the first time he heard it. And some of you might know, after the Buddha became enlightened in May, he walked around and he, first instant was that he thought this teaching is too profound, too subtle for most people to understand. That is a lot of stress and worry for him if we were to try to teach that. So I thought I'll just continue meditating and blissing out. I'm not worried about it. And then the Brahma God came down and asked him to teach. He said there are people with little dust in their eyes, that they could understand the Dhamma. So then the Buddha was encouraged to, help the world by expounding the teaching that he had realized in the full moon of May. And then the Buddha thought, well, who should I teach? And he actually remembered those 2 teachers that he trained with initially. But with his divine eye, he saw that they already passed away a couple weeks ago. And I remember, who's next? Then he remembered the 5 ascetics that he practiced with. So he went back and seeked them out to try to help teach them the Dhamma. And when they saw him, that's what some of you may know, some Buddhist history, was that initially they practiced with him, but then when they saw him start eating the rice milk, so they left him because they thought he was being a backslider, he was being too luxurious, eating rice milk. Because back then, in the time of the Buddha, they also esteemed this asceticism, that the more, this belief that the more you torture the body, somehow there's some kind of spiritual points that you get. You become more holy the more you torture the body. So in India, there's all different types of ascetic practices. There's people who just hold a rock in their hand without letting go. That's their practice, just holding a rock for years and years and years, and that is ascetic practice. Other people just stand on one leg. They stand on one leg. That's all they do. stand on one leg. So they do all this ascetic practice. They think and they believe that if you go through enough pain of the body, somehow that purifies your defilements. And the Buddha did touch on that that's not the case. Enlightenment is not about torturing the body because the body is somehow evil or something. No, enlightenment is about wisdom, about understanding. It's not. It doesn't matter how much you torture your body. If there's no there's no clarity, there's no wisdom, you're just doing it in vain. And that's one of the first teaching he gave. As you remember, that's what I heard, right? He said he was teaching at the Deer Park, the group of 5 bhikkhus. Then these 2 extremes bhikkhus should not be followed by one who has gone forth. Gone forth is another expression for people who are monks and nuns, or people who are practitioners. Gone forth. Sensual indulgence, which is low, coarse, vulgar. Ignoble is not a great translation. Ignoble, it just means it's not a noble way. Noble in the sense of enlightened. Yeah, so it doesn't lead to enlightenment. Unprofitable means it doesn't bring any benefit. So actually unbeneficial. Yeah. So it's ignoble because it doesn't lead, it's not a noble way, not a way of the enlightened ones, not a way of the enlightened masters, and unprofitable because it's unbeneficial. And that's sensual indulgence. That is following, your sense world of seeing pretty things, eating nice food, sleeping in soft bed, having relationship. So sensual indulgence is clearly the way of the world. Doesn't bring deep wisdom. You just get lost in it. And as you know, as a practitioner, you see the happiness of sense pleasure, it's so fleeting. We look so much, you look around, see, some kind of sense pleasure in the world. The great holiday that you dream about, is over within a few days, a few weeks. The great food that you dream about, you chew, swallow, it's only a couple seconds. But yet, sometimes we think about it and we thirst with it. But when it comes, it only lasts a few seconds, few minutes, and then it's gone. You buy a new car, you're really excited with it for a week or two, then you're bored with it. And you have to get new things. And sense pleasure, that's the problem. It's like an itch, that the more you scratch, the more you itch. You just can't get it right. You get it right enough, but never perfect. That's the thing with sensual pleasure. It's and that's why Ajahn Chah would always, one of the way he would recommend to get to know sense pleasure. He just said, find out your favorite food and eat that same thing the next 6 months and see how you feel. Right? Anything that you think you like, you do it every single day, it's not so nice anymore. It's boring. But it's just an idea that it's nice, it tastes good. Or some people are like, well, I really like to sleep. I like to sleep, lie in bed. So he would say, well, lie in bed for the next 24, 48 hours. Don't get out of bed. Just lie in your bed for a long, long time. See how that feels like. No, lying in bed is only nice if you take that extra 10 minutes. It's not nice anymore. You're stuck in bed for the next, 3 or 4 hours. And that's why sick people get really bored, because you have to lie in bed all day long. So sense pleasure is always, it's fleeting, and you constantly have to, it changes. That's why people always have to hunt around for new things to do, new restaurants to go to, new places to go on holidays, new things to buy, new cars, new clothes, new house, a new spouse, new partners, get bored, find new partners. So the sense pleasure is clear for most people. It's not a way towards wisdom. And that's the way of the world, the way of, but the Buddha also point out self-torture, which is painful because obviously you're torturing the body. You're fasting, not sleeping, not lying down. It's also ignoble. It doesn't lead to the noble ways. It doesn't lead to the noble ways of the enlightened ones. And it's also unbeneficial. And this is one of these teaching that is it's powerful because it also goes against what was popular in India at the time. Like I was saying, there's hundreds of ascetics, 100 different ways that people practice. You know, the naked ascetics, they don't wear any clothing, walk around naked, somehow, you know, putting up with the cold weather, the hot climate, somehow they feel that it purifies you from your defilements. That's just rites and ritual. If you see clearly, you have to see, and then it's just not even in India, throughout history, different places, throughout the ages, the Christians do the same thing. They would fast. Now you have this, I think in the Middle Ages or just after that, they have these monks who live on top of the poles. They go on these really high poles, they just climb up there and they stay there. And the people would pass food up there. So they just sleep, eat in this little tiny place. And that's their ascetic practice. Sometimes feeling this, if you do something like it's painful, difficult, somehow it purifies your mind. And the Buddha said that's not the way to wisdom either. It's not the way to enlightenment. There has to be understanding. There has to be clarity. That's where enlightenment comes from. It doesn't come from these practices for the sake of it. Doesn't mean they don't have any benefit. I mean, obviously, we are in the Thai forest tradition, the Dhutanga practices. There are the ascetic practices that the Buddha also encouraged to experiment with. But he even said he forbid monks to follow all 13 of them all the time. He said that you can follow a few and you're encouraged to follow a few, but you're not supposed to do all of them all the time. Even the Buddha recommended that. Yeah. So and then he said, you know, sometimes, you know, I go and I live in nice houses, nice palaces. I have meals with the kings and the prince and the wealthy people, eating soft food, luxurious beds, but I'm still the Buddha, and people still respect me. And I have monks who, you know, live just at the foot of the tree. They wear rag robes. They only eat one meal a day, but yet they still call me teacher. As you know, the reason he's the Buddha, I'm the Buddha, is not because I'm the most ascetic one. Because there are more people, my students are more, you know, more restrictive, more strict, more ascetic than I am. But they still respect me because of the deep wisdom, deep clarity that he has, not because of he's the most ascetic. So it's good to understand the middle way that the Buddha pointed out, not the way of sensual indulgence, but not also the way of just torturing your body all the time. So that's why I remind people, we do the practice of sitting up late, eating once a day only, putting everything in your bowl, mixing your food, is to test the limit of your comfort zone, to see where is our attachment to food or sensuality, to see what that does, and to see what it feels like when you start to play around with the different practices, to see how the mind reacts to it. See where is the attachment to food. Sometimes some people aren't attached to food and they can do all this and it doesn't bother them. But sometimes your defilements, your attachment could be irritation, fault finding. It's not uncommon. People say, yeah, I am really good practitioner, I can fast for a long, long time, I can mix up my food, I'm the only real practitioner here, and I sit a long time without moving. The other people are a bunch of slackers, they don't do anything, they just, I'm on the fast way to Nirvana, these other people are just, on the slow path, they've got no spiritual perfection, they've got no barami. So there's a fault finding, and a sense of self arising that. So I was trying to just remind people the practice that we're doing, whether it's fasting, whether it's sitting without moving for 2 or 3 hours, not lying down for the night, those practices are for your own benefit, to see where is it that you are craving comfort. Where is it that you're attaching to a certain type of things? And seek to know for yourself and to rub away a sense of self. So if you ever have a thought that I am better than others because I sit longer or I can fast longer than others, then just be careful, because that's Mara talking to you. The practice is about rubbing away a sense of self, a sense of ego, but understanding yourself more. It's not to make another self, not to make a better self, a more purified spiritual self, but to rub away a sense of self. And so much of that is giving yourself up. You're not here to get anything. The Most Sumedya always remind us. Practice is not about getting anything, getting enlightenment, getting this, getting that. That's just more spiritual materialism. That's just the way of the world. The practice is about giving up. How can I give up? Shave a sense of self. How can I help others? Sometimes people come to the monastery and they say, oh, go to different places. How can I just show up just enough? Do enough cleaning so people don't complain. I run back to my kuti and hide. There's just enough. Oh, can I just go? Are you guys going to feed me? I just show up. People are going to feed me, and I go and do my own practice. Meditation is the way. I'm here not to do dana. I just go straight to the direct way of just meditation and work on my defilements and become enlightened. That's it. You'll see those are the paths that will lead to dead ends. Because it's not about getting. So much of it, when you work in a community, it's about blending in. It's about peace and harmony. Because that's the right effort. To see what's happening and to cultivate wholesome states. How can I help the monastery? So much of this, the famous saying from John F. Kennedy, it's not what the country can do for you, it's what you can do for your country. It's the same in the monastery. It's not what can I get out of the monastery. Oh, can I get 2 weeks retreat, Ajahn, or a month retreat? And then can I not do this? If I have to drive, can I get an extra day off? Because driving is longer than 4 hours. Sometimes it's 6 hours, so I get an extra day off. Can I do that? So it's always this bargaining people do sometimes, and it's fair enough. But it's not the way of Dhamma. It's not a way of practitioner. Remind people, the more you give on this path, the more you get. Seriously. No one has to know this. Clean the toilet by yourself in the afternoon, no one knows. But you know. You know that you raked the path without being asked. You know that you kept things clean without being asked. That is good karma. That is something that you know that you've done for others without getting any benefit. And it's a path about giving up your time, giving up sense of self. It's not about getting more, not about doing as little as you can, so that way you get more time to meditate. If your practice goes well, everything is a meditation. That's Ajahn Chah never emphasized. We do a lot of meditation, but it's not strictly meditating. Sometimes there's a lot of work projects that we also do. But we're trying to do it with a wholesome state, with a mind of, yes, things needs to be done, building needs to be maintained, doesn't build itself. Roads, get ruined with the flooding. So occasionally from time to time we do have to put a lot of effort into fixing these things. And that's fine. It's about doing things with a pure heart, with a heart of giving, with a heart of generosity. So much of it. So you just be very careful when you just have these thoughts that come up that, oh, how can I get more out of this situation? How can I get more retreat time? How can I do this? If I light the fire, then I don't want to. Can I not get up? Can I show up to the meetings, Ajahn? All sorts of things that people do. If I'm driving you, like I said before, or if I have to dig, can I get 2 days off? Because digging is more hard work than cleaning toilets, or something. There's always this constantly bargaining of getting more things out of it. No, it's about giving. And you'll see for yourself that once you get into it, you understand the Dhamma, you get back so much more when you give up. A sense of joy, a sense of just, yes, I don't have to have my way. I can give, I can do things for others without worrying about my level of energy, without worrying about, oh, I'm not getting my 6 or 8 hours of meditation in today, oh no, something's going to go wrong now. I didn't get my 8 hours of meditation in. No, it's about letting go, about being in the present moment, being flow with the world brings you. And that's why it's the beauty of the practice. It's organic. It's just time and place. What time is it? And how should I, and what should I be doing? Instead of 9:25, you're like, oh, 5 more minutes. Okay, I'm going to 5 more minutes of peace before I go to the kitchen. I'm going to try and be the last one in the kitchen. Maybe I'll go 9:40. No one's going to notice. I'm going to squeeze another 10 minutes here, sitting quietly and not go in the kitchen and help out. Oh, there's lots of people in the kitchen. They don't need me. No one's going to notice. No one is going to notice. That's true. We're not taking tabs. I told you this is an honor system. People think I'm sitting here taking notes. I just taking notes of who's coming to the monastery. Not really. I don't get benefit if you guys show up and practice. Believe me. It's your own benefit that you show up on time, that you help out the work. And you'll see, the more harmonious you are, there's just a feeling of peace and harmony. And with that, it's easy to settle the mind. The mind that is kind of prickly, the mind that is kind of too hard, the mind that is always looking for his own benefit of me and myself. It's not a soft mind. It's not a mind that is peaceful. It's a mind that is always shaking and quivering because there is craving. So you want a mind that is soft and malleable. You want a mind that is easy, that flows along. Mind is gentle and peaceful and helpful. And those are the mind that gets good meditation, that becomes peaceful naturally. You see, sometimes there's people working like, oh, I don't want to do it, I'm just going to work and meditate. Go and meditate and see what happens. It's not peaceful. There's something that's nagging, it's like, oh yeah, I should have helped out. Yeah, so it's about working with wholesome states. And you take that wholesome state, and you come when you sit, the mind becomes still. And with a still mind, that's what clarity comes from. Then we're saying, going on to the Dhammachakka Sutta, the Mama Bhikkhus, by avoiding these two extremes, that the Tathagata has realized the middle way, which gives vision and understanding. See, it's about vision and understanding. And with that, which leads to calm. Penetration is through calmness, you can penetrate, you see clearly into things. When you see clearly, enlightenment happens. With enlightenment comes Nibbana. So it's always about vision, understanding, seeing clearly, and then with that, calmness happens. Sometimes calmness leads to seeing things clearly. So if you have a distracted mind, then that's why meditation is such an important, integral aspect of the practice. Because without a clear, stable mind, it's hard to see things. And that's why you see people in the world who don't meditate. They're just running around, just like rats in a little turning wheel, running from here and there, not really knowing what they're doing. And like the Buddha said, we're fettered by craving and blinded by delusion. You think happiness is out there, so you keep reaching, but because you don't see clearly, you keep reaching for the wrong things. You go relationship, you get divorced, find another spouse, still is not just right. You get another job, it's good for a while, and then it's still not right. Change job, start your own business, gets really busy, it's good for a while. That's still not right. Then you get to an old age, retirement, 65. Still don't know what's happening. Don't know where happiness is. Don't know where suffering is. Really, everybody wants happiness, but yet we meet with suffering. Why is that? Because we don't see clearly. It's only through seeing clearly, to understanding, that we can start to let go of the suffering, let go of the craving that will go on next week. It is through the middle way. And the middle way is, and that's the other thing I want to point out, the middle way is, each and every one of us is different. You have to find your middle way. Some people can be really ascetic, other people not so. So know time and place. And work with the body. Whether fasting brings you a kind of calmness, or just fasting just makes you hungry and the mind starts to think a lot. Or some people, not sleeping also brings a calmness to the mind. Or sometimes not sleeping makes you really tired and grumpy for the next 4 days. Then that's not a practice for you as well. So that's why with these ascetic practices is to get to know yourself. What is your trigger points? What is your comfort zone? And what brings peace? Not what you think it is, but through experience. Because some people think fasting sounds horrible. You just get hungry all the time. That's not true. After a while, the mind calms down. It's a few days. Same with not sleeping. You don't, and not sleeping is great because, as you know, we do it, enough. In the middle of the night, all your 5 hindrances come up. Irritation, sleepiness, doubt, all comes up to allows you to work to see it. To see clear in the mind, okay, these are just that. So these practices, these ascetic practices in the Thai forest tradition are meant as a tool to understand your mind better, to see the defilements in real time, to know what they are. It is through understanding that we transcend suffering, not through blind faith, doing things, not through bowing 1,000,000 times, not through, not lying down for 8 years or whatever it is that people take. It's through understanding that release happens. And it's something, like I said, we're all practicing, but we're all slightly different. So know your middle way for yourself. Know what works, what calms your mind down, what brings a sense of peace and clarity. And so much of it, like I said, it's about rubbing a sense of self. Where is it that your self is coming up? And how can you work with that? How can you rub that away and be a more harmonious? Not ask what you can get from the monastery, but how can you give out of gratitude of all those people come and feed us, out of gratitude of all the people came and built this place for us to enjoy. How can we give to each other? How can we be a force of peace and harmony in the community? So those are the few words that came to mind on this, this evening of on a Saturday. Like I said, in the next few weeks, we'll continue with this theme of the setting in motion the wheel of Dhamma, the Dhammachakka Sutta, and how, like I said, you can use that as a tool to contemplate. Like I said, my approach to Dhamma is not really systematic. I don't go through and I'm trying to understand every single Pali word. Some of it is helpful, but it's more of a tool for contemplation. You just read it and then sit and meditate. Just open the mind and see what comes up. Different themes come up from time to time. And then stay with that. Yeah. So it is a tool for contemplation. Sometimes just a word just comes out. Sometimes just a certain ideas. You sit with that first. Yeah. And see what different ways. So it's a tool to realize, truth and understanding. And to know for yourself. Like the Buddha said, through understanding that we transcend suffering. To clear seeing. And not through anything else. So I offer that for your reflection this evening.